been carrying out. So as many of you will know, in the end of last year, ecda wrote to public sector organisations across the county and asked you to complete a questionnaire that's asking you to rate your skills across a whole range of variables. I'll talk some more about those later. And we followed that up by depth interviews with people in a range of organisations. So the slide in front of you shows the logos of all the organisations who responded to the quantitative survey, and the vast majority of those, I think all but one or two, also took part in the more qualitative interviews that we did. So first of all, a thank you to everyone who was involved in that. We found it a really useful way of getting information about the state of analytics across the county in a very wide range of organisations. I mean, it was all in the sort of the local government family. We didn't have any involvement with health, but the sort of different district councils, the police, the fire, and so on, and we got different perspectives from those. It's probably also worth pointing out that we had a fairly partial, in some senses, that what we got was a partial view. They were the views of one person in an organisation, and they may not always reflect the views of everybody inside that organisation. Bizarrely, actually, one organisation responded twice to the quantitative survey, and there was quite different answers to some of the questions there in terms of assessment capability. So what did we find? Well, the first thing is, what's the framework we're looking at in terms of data assets? So the way I've broken this down is to talk about four things. So data skills, tools and tech, and culture and organisation. So all of these are key requirements in terms of being having assets in terms of able to do data analytics to influence policy and practice. So the first and possibly most obvious is access to data. Not always as obvious as it might seem in terms of the fact that sometimes people don't have access to data, but data that's well ordered, accessible, amenable to analysis, all that type of thing. So that's the first block that we were looking at. Then we're talking about the skills inside an organisation, and that's primarily about people. Do they have the skills to be able to carry out analysis and analytics, to have the conversations with customers, and to produce meaningful results? Tools and tech are important for analysts in particular. So do they have the software they need? Do they have big enough, more powerful enough computers, and so on? And then the issues about culture and organisation. Are organisations actually data friendly? Do they want analytics to be part of the way that they do things? Do they have a culture that is supportive of analytics? So what are the key things we find? So sort of some strengths and challenges on each of these. So in terms of data, most organisations reported, and remember this is all self-reporting, most organisations said they were strong at data management. There was lots of examples of good reporting, visualizations. Information governance was, I think almost everyone said they had a strong information governance. And also some organisations said they were strong at data quality, that their data was of a good quality. And we asked people for examples of data projects they've done, analytical projects, and we came up with some really good examples, ranging from people using data to streamline their services, to understand how their contact centres work, that type of thing, to analysis of data that showed why it was important to keep the dumps open during the COVID crisis. Challenges there, so some data not accessible, and some of this about being in data silos. So data not accessible, a couple of examples of those were people who had, for example, housing systems where there was a contractor and they could either not get to the raw data underlying that, or they would have to pay a lot of money, or if they did it themselves, they would lose support from their supplier. So that was a bit of an issue. Data silos is about getting data, access to data across the organisation. some organisations, there was a reluctance to share data both internally and also externally. There was a quote I quite like where somebody said that fear was the biggest driver to stop people sharing data, obviously something to work on. And while some people said data quality was a strength, other people talked about the problems with data quality, missing fields, lack of information, making it impossible to use data. So that was data. On the whole, quite a lot of strength there, but some challenges also. So I looked at skills. So in terms of primarily we were looking at software skills and analytical skills. So strengths, so SQL, SQL and Excel were genuinely reported as things where people were very strong. One question I had about SQL as to whether that was analysts or whether it was the IT people where the SQL strength lay. And that's maybe not an issue, but if analysts have got the ability to manipulate data through SQL, then they're going to be in a stronger position than if they aren't. GIS is clearly something where there's a lot of strength across the county. People using ArcGIS, QGIS, are able to do quite a lot with that and reporting strong skills. Good at basic statistical analysis, basic reporting, and also good at presenting. Power BI was by some way the most dominant way of presenting information in dashboards. We'll see some more of that with the fire example later. There are also a couple of examples of people using R Shiny, which is I think harder than Power BI, but possibly more flexible if you get good at it. So challenges, so few examples of people being able to use statistical modelling, particularly in the smaller organisations. In terms of the analytical software, so the two we tend to talk about are being R and Python, and very few people reported a great deal of strength in either of those. And from the qualitative work, we identified a suggestion or that a lot of some people working as analysts across the county don't feel as confident as they might because they lack formal training in what they're doing. So tools and technology, so strengths, I think organisations moving to a cloud environment is basically a good thing. It should mean access to data is easier and more consistency in the tools. A few challenges, so access to data, which ties in a bit with what we were saying before. Access to software, so some people would like to have R on their desks or Python compilers, and their IT people won't let them or take a long time to convince, so that's an issue. And computing power, some people are sitting on machines that have been bought with a standard organizational spec and doing complicated data analysis, particularly working with larger data sets, isn't really going to work if you're working on a small, not very powerful computer. And certainly I'm presenting from a computer which has got a 64-bit operating system, but Essex County Council insist on putting a 32-bit software on it, which cripples some of the functionality of some programs. Culture and organisation, lots of interesting stuff there, and it's really, really varied. So there's some organisations with a really strong commitment to analytics and the leadership team, driven, asking for data, trying to, I mean, there was one council which has a sort of a politically led transformation programme in terms of data. Whether it still does after the elections, I'm not sure, but there is examples where the leaders, and certainly the officers, the chief executive and senior leadership teams are driving analytics. Large organizations tend to have almost inevitably better sort of good organization around their teams of analysts. They're either grouped together or they link together. And also there were some examples of intelligent customers. It's possibly a patronizing phrase, but data literate customers are pretty important in terms of understanding what's getting the best out of data to be able to have a good conversations and co-produce insight. Some of the challenges, though, so some analysts are working in isolation, sitting all on their own. I think we identified there may be cases where people didn't even know if there were other analysts in their organisation. Political leadership with a couple of exceptions, don't seem to be driving forward the use of data. It's interesting, ECC's got a new leader and a refreshed cabinet now. It looks to me like they may be upping the game on evidence as well. There's also talk about resource pressures. So the individuals finding analytical resources had been cut back as there were pressures. There's another analytical team in one council which was being driven to sell its services to the private sector, including the third sector, diluting its resources and putting pressure on it to make money, which maybe doesn't provide the best atmosphere for providing a good internal service. And a common comment was that potential customers lack data literacy. They don't really understand what data analytics can do for them. So that gave us a strong understanding of where we are. I'm now going to sort of stop. I don't know if anyone's got any questions at this point. Maybe if they've got any questions, they'd like to put them to me. So in the chat. Okay, so what that says to me in terms of where we've got to is ecda's got a one of our objectives is to support the development of building analytical capability within the whole county, the wider county of Essex. And this tells us that we need to be sort of focused on different needs, and to work with different groups. Organisations are in different places, and we need to tailor the way we work with organisations in different ways to get the best out of that. And I shall now pass on to Stephen.
Cool, thank you very much. So kind of Dave's just described the kind of situation for the state of our teams now. I'm going to briefly kind of talk about what's the natural next step. So if we're talking about kind of building capabilities, we have a good understanding of our current skills and strengths. Where do we go next? And then I'll hand you back to David to kind of introduce the mechanisms that we're trying to put in place to help people take that next step. But the first couple of slides I'm just going to talk about are just kind of covering a few of the things we've kind of seen before. And we've all seen that classic what is data science Venn diagram, illustrating the overlapping components of kind of a data science team, and there's various kind of definitions and versions that are not really worth kind of getting too bogged down in. People argue about all kinds of stuff on the internet, and people have been quite furious about the kind of what is the definition for kind of data science, data analytics, whatever. I'd say let's not worry too much about that. What I've done here though is I've changed the concept and focused it on placed the emphasis on the kind of roles and skill sets that contribute to any team that involves taking some data and turning it into some action. And these are just the three roles that I've kind of used. So we've got data engineer, data analyst, and data journalist. I've got my kind of quick and dirty simplified definitions here, but again, don't get too bogged down in the exact definitions of kind of job titles. This is just to get a bit of an indication of the types of roles and things and skill sets that we possess across our analytical teams. So moving on, yes, we all here are people and professionals, and we're not defined by the place we work in or the place we work for, but I do kind of have to acknowledge this theme of data maturity with an organizational lens. So you could be the best analyst in the world at the very top of the profession, but you need all hands in your organization pulling in the same direction for your analysis to have the desired effect. And on the screen here are the data maturity pillars from CIO, which is a magazine, an online magazine for chief information officers, and these are to assess the data maturity of organizations. And these broad definitions are generally accepted as kind of industry standard for data teams. Again, there's several versions of these maturity frameworks. The reason I include this one is mostly because a university recently conducted an exercise looking at the maturity of various public sector organisations, and they used this one, so it's kind of fresh in my memory. And generally, no one is at this very top level. In fact, literally no public sector organisations was found to be at this level of data-driven. Data-driven is where no decisions are ever made without data and analytics, and that's what they think everyone should be kind of aspiring to move towards. And most of our organisations are probably somewhere here in the middle. And this is what we found for that kind of engagement with yourselves at the latter end of last year. We saw that most people are at the kind of data proficient and data savvy level, which is good. So whilst I know that the types of things that everyone does on a daily basis are really varied from one person to the next, and within this room, what one person does will be completely different to what another person does, and it's not a good idea to try and simplify things into profiles. I've done that anyway, and you can see it here in this like lovely kind of color palette that I've got on the screen, because it's helpful for us to try and create some profiles so that we can kind of tailor the right support in the right place at the right time. And here are the kind of said profiles. And it's my attempt to try and bring together the kind of analytics professions I talked about from that Venn diagram with the organizational kind of data maturity. So the data maturity of your organization is the columns, sorry, not the columns, but the rows, and then the kind of professions are these columns here. So just as a quick example, in data savvy organizations, that middle row, data kind of engineers or whatever you want to call them, typically focus on kind of making the data accessible, raising understanding in the appropriate use of data, increasing efficiencies in processing of data and reporting, and things like that. And the analysts will typically be using data to find empirical evidence to make robust recommendations, and will use a variety of kind of statistical tests to kind of really build an evidence base with hard kind of proof. So based on what you've told us, this is where we believe kind of most people are, somewhere between the data proficient and data savvy level for all of these professions, really. And this is a really great foundation to start from, because if you see, remember, I'm not even acknowledging the lowest CIO maturity pillar that was called data aware. That's not even on here because we believe everyone passed that a long time ago. And there are organisations across the UK that will still be kind of trying to pull themselves up from being just data aware into this proficient / savvy space that I feel most of us are in. So on the left-hand side, generally people feel a bit more comfortable, as we heard, with the management of their data, and there's been a lot of advancement in making data accessible and the use of kind of automation processes, which we'll see an example of later with Fire and Rescue Service. Looking at the analyst profession in the middle, again, people had good examples of analysis they conducted, but as we heard earlier, there may be a kind of lack of formal training often proved a barrier in the kind of confidence for being able to do this work more regularly and operate in that kind of middle scientist, data scientist space. And we also heard that there's often considerable challenges getting key customers to use data and trust data and analysis in their decision processes. So whilst I've seen lots of people across the Essex partnership presenting analytics and presenting data outputs in really engaging and exciting ways, and we need to continue doing that, we also need to kind of build some literacy from the kind of top down so all the important people can know the value of analytics. And our aim as a partnership is to try and help build capabilities across all of these professions in individuals. And hopefully the ecda partnership can help facilitate that. And I'm kind of counting you all as part of the ecda partnership, as we need and require you all to be able to kind of showcase your work, share your skills and disseminate your knowledge. So for now, I'm just going to ask you two very quick questions, and you can answer in your head, or you can pop it in the chat, or you can just kind of text it to me later, whatever you want to do. And the first of which is, which of these profiles do you kind of most affiliate yourself with? Which of these do you kind of see more of yourself in? And the second one is, which of these profiles do you aspire to reach? And the answers can be the same thing. So you might see yourself as 1, and that's what the level you want to be at, and that is the level you need to be at for your work. So that's absolutely fine. But it's those 2 questions: which do you most affiliate yourself with, and which do you aspire to be? I'm just going to pause for 20 seconds whilst you ponder on that. The reason I'm asking is because the next few slides starts to identify some of those materials, the training, the resources and the support that are specifically designed to help people move from one of those profiles maybe to the next. So whilst I just get something ready, think about that, and I'm going to move on to the next slide in a second. Good, yeah, it's good to see. Tom, you want to be an evangelist. I think there's evangelicalness in you, and yeah, you've done a great job trying to convert some of those data skeptics across organisations. Right, so moving on. Here we are. So to begin with, I think as a partnership, we're going to focus on making that kind of step from data proficiency to data savvy. And in the kind of data engineering, data management space, we want to help people take that expert knowledge that everyone here possesses and share more widely through kind of making data accessible. When I say we, this is very much a royal we. We'll see an example from Essex Fire and Rescue Service later about accessible data and insight. So no one will know your data better than yourselves. No one will know your organization's priorities better than yourselves, but what we can try and facilitate here is the sharing of best practice and simply showing the things we have been doing. There's a lot of tools, a lot of things all available to be able to showcase data in kind of exciting ways, and I think through sharing that, we'll get a better idea for, I guess, to some extent, the art of the possible, and this is perhaps the first step. Now, this kind of middle section, this kind of data analyst progression, I guess, is a bit of a ladder which takes a bit more time and focus to climb, I suppose, and it needs a bit more resource as well. But the good news is, collectively and individually, we've already been climbing it. In some of the work that I've seen from analysts across Essex, you really interrogate data to the kind of nth degree with huge kind of intensity that I feel like I should be alerting Amnesty International. The next natural stage for most people is just one tiny little extra step, and it's using the kind of range of statistical tests so that you can turn those observations into kind of evidence. So from that kind of data interrogation, people are really excellent at pulling out kind of nice kind of observations, and the use of these statistical tests, even though it seems quite daunting at first, it is a fairly simple next natural step to turn that observation into evidence. And yes, that's a daunting one, which is why we're kind of saying with the university that they've kindly offered to help run some formal training sessions that should help people start thinking about the kind of components of data and the kind of get their kind of head into the operational space for thinking about things like kind of data inference and causality and the use of some of these statistical tests. Another couple of things that we're looking to kind of do in this space, and I think David will run you through some key dates coming up. We're opening up our invitations to our internal show and shares to continually kind of demonstrate the art of the possible. So show and shares are quick 30-minute sessions we run fortnightly here at Essex County Council, just to showcase some of the work we've been doing. And also you see at the bottom there, we're opening up the ecda methods board for people to ask their questions about suitable approaches to experts like kind of Alex from the University of Essex. And this methods group have met a couple of times to help try and connect people's business problems and problem statements and questions with possible data solutions. And I think in previous Be Part of the Equation sessions, we've touched upon some tips for ensuring data insights and outputs are having their desired effects, but we're also planning a future Be Part of the Equation event to develop this a bit more and share some more kind of best practice. And I think that might be the next one, but we'll see on the kind of key dates coming up. At the same time, we're also looking to try and build some county-wide literacy from the top down. And I thought I'd quickly show you the other avatars for these final 3 kind of profiles. So if you currently kind of see yourself at this level, then you'll know how kind of others others see you. And typically, kind of most individuals will affiliate themselves with one profession over the other, or they see more of themselves in one of those pathways over the others. It's kind of natural that people are more skilled in perhaps one of those. But here's a kind of secret fourth profession that I also wanted to highlight, and it's a really important one to ensure that all of those other professions can exist harmoniously and can grow together at the kind of right pace. And that's the role of the kind of data strategist. There we go. So this could be a leader, a manager, it could be a partnership, it could be whatever, but it's really important that there's some kind of strategic thinking around the use of data and analytics. So like I kind of touched on earlier, there's not much point doing kind of amazing data science outputs if your leaders then don't use it. And likewise, there's not much bother going to the trouble of kind of this evangelical conversion of data skeptics into data lovers if you then only provide the decision makers with frequency tables and exploding pie charts of things that happened back in like 2015. So as a group, we'll kind of try to strategize to ensure all of these components of effective data management and analysis are as impactful as possible. And for me, it'd be absolutely amazing if someone in this room, someone's organization in this room, became the first local government organization to be rated as data-driven in that kind of CIO data maturity framework I mentioned earlier. That would be a real good kind of feather in the cap, I think, for one of us here. And the final point from me before I pass you back to David to tell you what's on the roadmap and what's coming up to help make those kind of small steps is just a final point. I mean, Claire, earlier on you were asking about kind of banter, and Tommy suggested football. Well, here's football and nicknames. So what better kind of illustration of banter? So on the left is the footballer with the best nickname in the game. His nickname is One Size, as in one size fits all. But for the purpose of capability building, we know that one size does not fit all. And therefore, we're trying to tailor different activities to different audiences, to different profiles with different aspirations even. And by all means, you're always welcome to attend everything we do and use every resource and read every blog and attend every show and share. But if you have a very clear vision for where you are and where you want to be, then we can give you some kind of steer and guidance on the material appropriate for you. So that upcoming kind of training I touched upon, for me, I'd suggest it's a starting point for people who are looking to the extra step, looking to kind of turn from an interrogator to a kind of scientist. And with that, I'm going to pass you back to David, who's going to talk you through some of the other things on the pipeline over the course of this year that can hopefully help you move forward in your organisations and as individuals.
Thank you, Stephen. That was really very interesting, and I think we can all think about where do we fit in and where would we like to fit in. So what I'm now going to talk on is Stephen has said that within ecda we've been trying to work out what does our capability offer look like to others, and we will be sort of going a bit more formal on this, but this is a bit of a tease, I suppose, or an advanced shot of what our offer is likely to look like. So our strategy is based around these 5 points of showcasing resources that are available for mostly formal training and peer support, and also sort of another form of support through the network. So as we said, our conversations as part of the data asset map uncovered lots of great examples of work. And those are things we should be sharing with each other, not least because it would help us to streamline work to deliver against shared priorities. And I think it's also really useful. One of the things I believe in is that if we tell more stories about how useful data analytics, whatever you want to call it, have been, then more and more people will want to use those. So we're going to start our capability strategy by facilitating regular county-wide show and shares. Now we've got a show and share this afternoon from Essex Fire and Rescue Service and Essex County Council. And with your input, what we'd like to do is develop one every 6 weeks, which we can present via Teams and also record those on and host via YouTube. So if you've got a story that you want to show and share, please get in touch with us at the standard ecda email address, which is ecda at essex.gov.uk, and we'd really like to have people on board sharing stories. So that's the showcasing thing. The next issue is trying to make a set of resources available to you. So we will be launching an ecda blog in the next few weeks. One of the things we'll be doing on that is sharing project resources. Within ecda, we've done a lot of work to try and identify what does a good data analytical project look like, and we've got loads of checklists, proposals, scoping documents and so on. And also I think it would be helpful where we can to share reports and documentation as well. So that's the ecda blog, and as well as materials, it'll also be an opportunity to share thinking. So feel free to get in touch if you want to do a think piece of a blog, or you want to share something with an audience across the county. So we've done 2 of the 3 stages that we were going to do on the data asset map. So the first, so this was the quantitative data collection and then the qualitative interviews. The next stage of that is to try and get a better understanding of who in the county holds what data. We'll be following that up with another questionnaire, and this time we'll try and share with you information like who are the contacts, particularly in the county, who knows about which data sets. In addition to that, so that will be helpful in terms of who to speak to if you're interested in what type of data. In addition, ecda has a secure data sharing platform. It's hosted on a Amazon Web Services, run by a company called Cloudwick for us. It's a very secure platform with lots of controls about data. Most of the data we hold on it at the moment is either pseudonymized or anonymized, but it can hold all sorts of data and not just structured data. It can hold unstructured data and so on. And potentially we see this as a resource that can be available to organisations across Essex when they need a facility for secure data sharing. So that's primarily when things are going outside of your organisation. So those are some examples of the resources that we're going to make available. In terms of training, so a few things that Stephen has hinted at. So we've been talking in particular to our colleagues and partners at the university about what may be available. So, for example, we will be setting up, ideally, resources available from within the university during the summer, an introduction to data and statistics course that will, the way Stephen's described it, it will take this for the interrogator that wishes to take some steps towards being the scientist. So this is a fairly basic course introducing key statistical concepts and providing a really good introduction with some practical applications of modelling, as well as some of the sort of the I wouldn't say theory around it, but some of the best practice around that. With the university, this course is likely to be at a discounted cost. It's likely to be, I think, over 3 partial days and cost around £250. We're very interested in trying to understand what the level of interest in that course would be. So if you are, could you let us know? You could put something in the chat or alternatively email the ecda mailbox. If it's something you're interested in, and if your organisational training budget is likely to prove a barrier to attending, come and have a word with us and we may be able to do something about that. Following up from that, we're likely to be other courses, one of which we're highlighting at the moment is an introduction to R. R is one of the 2 best ways of doing data analytics at the moment. and we will be working with the university to deliver an introduction to R. It would be really good, of course, if you could manage to get access to R through your work computer before you attended that. The university have something called the Institute for Analytics and Data Science, the IADS. This is University of Essex, of course. And they run a summer school. The summer school is, I think, is running virtually this year, and it has a set. It's a 2-week program. You don't need to go for both 2 weeks, but that's covering things like data management, machine learning, natural language processing, advanced R for those who are interested. There's a discounted public sector rate, and I will put a link to the course website in the chat when I finish speaking. One option for developing your skills is to use many of the online resources at the moment. Essex County Council is currently trialling Data Camp. Some of you may have membership already, but one of the things we will do is try and get ECC to demonstrate how they've effectively used Data Camp to build their skills. Seems to me that if you're looking for a particular technique or something like that, then this could be a good place to do that, particularly if you're going to apply it fairly quickly. And again, with the university, we're talking about building a continuing professional development program that we can tailor very much to the needs of individuals. So that goes beyond the 2 introductory courses, the Introduction to Data and Stats and the Introduction to doing Data and Stats in R, and building skills towards high levels of expertise. So again, if you think you might be interested in that, do get in touch. One of the other things that I think certainly I found important in my career is peer support. And when I was talking to people during the data asset mapping exercise, I sort of became aware that some people were fairly isolated and didn't necessarily have anyone to talk data with them. So there's a couple of things that we're going to offer, which we hope will help people in peer support. So the first one is ecda launched a methodology board, primarily to peer review in a supportive way the work people are doing on our projects. The board includes data experts, so we've got 2 people from the university, we've got Stephen from Essex County Council, and we've got several people from Essex Police, all of whom have got a very good knowledge of and experience of applying data analytics, data skills within a range of environments. Now, this is not an offer for individual questions, but we're very happy to use that as a forum to provide advice on, so necessarily more advanced, but there's perhaps things where you might need to have a bit of support before you're becoming on confidence. We're planning on meeting around every 2 months. So again, get in touch through the ecda mailbox or get in touch with me directly if you want to bring an issue to the group. Similarly, ethics, we don't talk about ethics that much in if we talk about ethics that much in these, but ethics is really important in terms of underpinning what we do. One of my lines is that we're using data provided by individuals, citizens who haven't got any choice to provide it to whatever level of government they're providing it to, and therefore we have a massive obligation to treat data ethically. ecda has an independent data ethics committee. It's now got 11 members who generally do not work for the public sector inside Essex, and they provide us with ethical advice. Again, if you are looking for ethical advice, particularly on major projects or where you're worried about whether your use of data is ethical, then that will be available to you through the deck. And once again, get in touch with us through the ecda mailbox or me directly if you want to use that. And finally, we have be part of the equation. We're proposing to continue with 4 core events a year aimed at sharing knowledge and experience, carry on building this network. And we're going to add in some new Art of the Possible sessions, which are pitched as shorter sessions for aim to inspire. What we'd really like is a lot of the work on Be Part of the Equation has been done by the core ecda team and by really supportive colleagues in Essex County Council. But if you'd be interested in shaping the future of Be Part of the Equation and how that might work, then again, please get in touch. We're really looking for more participation and hoping that we can ensure that we continue to be focused on the needs of people who are attending this. So that's the sort of key elements of our strategy. This was a graphic that somebody did after a Be Part of the Equation, possibly the one in October, sending a set of suggestions. And a lot of those have influenced where we've gone on the capability strategy. We haven't forgotten the rest of those. And one of the other things ecda is doing at the moment is working on how to work with senior leaders across the county to try and make the county a better place to do data analytics, and also ideally to improve decision making and lead to better outcomes. That's why we're in this game. So we're going to be engaging with chief officers and leaders starting in July. The really good news for me and others is that this work is going to be led by our 3 sponsors, who are the Chief Executive of Essex County Council, the Chief Constable, and the Vice Chancellor of Essex University, all of whom are really committed to this agenda. We're going to start as part of that strategy, so we'll be advocating with senior officers and leaders. We'll also be looking for training opportunities to support improving data literacy among senior decision makers and members. We're also going back to an idea that's been around for some time, which is looking for a super district partner. So that's a single district with whom we can work really closely, working on projects together, and that will be used to drive up the capability of that district and to do some really useful work. And we're also, I'm not going to say we're finding this easy, is trying to enable the system through an Essex information governance framework to try and remove the existing barriers that exist on terms of data sharing. So what I hope I've painted there is a picture of quite a lot of activity which is designed to support the development of capability as we try and turn Essex into a well, the aspiration from our sponsors is a world leader in the use of data and analytics and machine learning and AI in terms of public services. So a few dates for diaries. So as I said, we've got methodology boards. There'll be a methodology board. It's actually going to be on the, no, I don't have a date for that yet, sorry, that is available should you have a quick question. Do not worry about dates of methodology board. If you've got something, we can convene the board relatively quickly to have a discussion. The ecda blog, which will launch on the 28th of June. On the 21st of July, we will have a show and share. Then in August, we're going to have an Art of the Possible, so a Be Part of the Equation event that will focus on GIS, we think, given a lot of you have told us that GIS is a strength in the area. And hopefully over the summer, July, August or early September, we'll be able to offer the Introduction to Data and Statistics programme from the university to people within our network. In September, we'll have a first show and share, a Be Part of the Equation, where we're going to focus on storytelling, getting the narrative and data visualizations right. So please volunteer if you've got a good story there, and we'll be having a methodology board later in September. In October, another show and share, and then hopefully some training, including the introduction to R. And then in November, we will be having a Be Part of the Equation, and currently we're planning on holding that on data management. call it databases in a day, and maybe databases in 2 hours, but the key things people working with data need to know about data management, and also another methodology board. So there's quite a lot of activity going on, and as I say, speak to us when you want to get involved. So that is all I had to say, and I'm now going to click on stop presenting.
Thanks, David. And thanks, Stephen. I'm conscious we've got a break coming up, but I'm conscious we've thrown quite a lot of information at you there, and I'm sure people have got some questions or even some reflections on the types of analysts. You know, whether that's you know, some self-reflection or reflection about your own organisations, where you are now or where you'd like to be. So by all means, if you've got a question or a comment you'd like to make now, then throw it into the chat or stick your hand up. And equally, Dave has just given you a lot of information about areas of capability that we think that we can support with. So we're really keen to get some feedback from you again, whether that's you want to put your hand up and make a comment now, put it in the chat, or contact us later. I think there was a bit of a theme there that if you want to contact us, probably the best way to do that is the email address that Tom kindly put in the chat, but ecda@essex.gov.uk, or by all means, you know, contact myself or David. So I'll pause for a second, get my breath back. Has anyone got a question or want to make a comment? Tom's shaking his head furiously. No, but I did see something ping up in the chat there. Oh, that's David sending the link to the IADS summer school. Okay, so if there's no questions or comments, or you're just too shy and you want to save them for later, that's absolutely fine. I propose we have a quick sort of 5-minute break, if that feels right for everyone to quickly stretch their legs. So shall we, oh, David's just come on, shall we reconvene at 3 o'clock? So have a quick break, and then we've got Soren and Leanne, which are going to talk to us about the open data project they've been doing, which I'm really looking forward to hearing all about. Okay, I'll see you all at 3. almost 3 o'clock. Oh, sorry, switches your camera on. Perfect timing there. I was just about to ask. Copy. Hi, Leanne. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you, Claire?
Yeah, I'm very, very good, thanks. Looking forward to hearing from yourself and Soren.
Like to see Soren's got a little shirt on there.
Ready to impress.
We are very impressed.
I washed my hair. I think that's enough for this.
Yeah, that's about my standard these days. So I think everyone's coming back in. I can see everyone joining back in. I'll just introduce you both. So Leanne and Soren have been working on an open data project collaboratively to make fire incident data more accessible. It's a really, really good project, and hopefully today is a great forum for them to share how they did that, you know, what they learned en route, but equally, if it's something you're interested in replicating, then as usual, talk to any of us if it's something you're interested in. I think, Soren, are you going to share slides?
Yep. Let me know if
without any technical hitches.
No, not at all. There you go. Now I think you should be able to see it. If it's too small, let me know and I'll see what I can do, because I've got it on my bigger screen right there, but I think it should be fine.
Yeah, perfect. So over to you two.
Nice. Hello, everyone. As Claire introduced us, my name is Soren Bobeke. I'm an analyst in the DNA team, and I also have my colleague here, Leanne.
Hi, everybody. I'm Leanne. As obviously Claire's introduced us, I'm the performance analyst at Essex County Fire and Rescue Service, and working with Soren over the last 3 or 4 months to produce.
Yeah,
this.
I think it's around 3 months now. Now, you may look at the presentation and think, Soren, Leanne, what's with the astronaut team? Are you out of this world? Well, technically, yes, speaking for myself, but the astronaut theme actually has its origins in my childhood wish of becoming one. I was super passionate about the outer space and the moon landing, having heard of the first man stepping on the moon and imagining myself in his shoes, floating around in a cabin, you know. Luckily enough, I'm not one of the only 2 Romanian cosmonauts that existed, because I figured out that my passion lays elsewhere, collaborating with other analysts to actively shape things around us and enabling everyone to see the beauty of data. This is exactly what Leanne and I have managed to do since we started to work together.
And obviously, for the record, actually, I wanted to be a ballerina. I didn't happen either, but I'm glad data's worked out instead, and GIS too.
Leanne, you want to go with this slide?
Yeah, so obviously we wanted to talk about like how this project was founded and Essex County and Essex Fire have previously had a number of discussions about ways we could potentially collaborate, and even prior to COVID, might have been just before it really struck off at the beginning of last year. We were all there with the ecda team in particular, talking about different projects, and like I say, we had a lot of conversation with Tom in particular around that. And I think obviously then we were talking about all the different data sets that we have available within Essex Fire and how we could potentially correlate them, and we were sharing obviously some accessible sources to ones that we have via the Home Office in particular, obviously for our transparency website. And I think COVID particularly just struck. So we obviously, our different organisations went into full throttle of managing that. And then around December time, at the end of last year, must be around December time, just before Christmas, I think it was, we all got back together virtually online and started talking about picking up those conversations again, to see really what the art of the possible was again, and what we'd learned since all of that and what was more available. And we shared that, we went into more detail about obviously what the data we currently publish on our transparency website, which is a flat file spreadsheet format of our incident data. So all the incidents that we attend as a fire and rescue service within the county area of Essex, but also we attend within Southend and Thurrock as well. And I've done a lot of internal discussions as well with stakeholders, talking about what sort of data sets people were asking for from our public. And as public sector, we do have a commitment to share that data and to make things more accessible to them. We'd obviously been in the Essex Fire, we're embarking on a bit of a data journey, making best use of this new Microsoft technology that we've been gifted to us, particularly quite quickly, obviously due to the pandemic as well. And obviously we'd seen examples from other fire and rescue services, which is London's little snapshot there of London's one on their data store, which they have publicly available instant data. And to be honest, we as a group of with Tom along and obviously Soren and the rest of others there as well from Essex Fire, we knew we could do a lot better with just the data we already had available. So we were like, let's really take this forward, because it was kind of like, and we obviously have we already have a commitment under the fire and rescue plan to provide that transparency data as well. Reason why we actually wanted to work particularly with Essex County Council to deliver a very similar product is that their platform already hosts a number of other interactive tools where people of the public, but also our own internal stakeholders, can go and access a lot of data about the residents that we all serve. So yeah, we obviously internally we've been pushing a lot of other stakeholders who've been asking for socioeconomic data and obviously the release of your COVID-19 dashboard to really start using those in. So obviously then publishing a dashboard very similar with instant data, it kind of is a bit of a force multiplier, so they can go and access lots of different data sets without having to click on many different sites. And obviously with the tool sets, particularly the Power BI ones that you have, it's obviously a clear example that you guys were expertise in that, and obviously we were just starting our journey with that as well at the time. And obviously we've learned a lot from, obviously when we're in the rest of the presentation, we've learned a lot from each other and then expanding it within our own organisation. So obviously when Tom was like, who was obviously one of our project managers on this as well, supporting us, was like, do you want to go? We're like, yeah, go on then. let's get it, let's do it. So yeah, we couldn't really say no. I don't know if you've got any more to add there, Soren, from your angle of, or Tom even, if he wants to chip in.
Yeah, well, actually, I kind of wanted to ask Tom as well, like, and to have him share his intention with us of why he actually approached Essex Fire and why did he want to work with Essex Fire. I think Tom is also in the meeting as well. I've seen him before.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I think for me, in my role at Essex County Council, I lead the open data programme that we have, and we have had an open data platform managed by Essex County Council for the past 2 years or so. And the intention was never that it was going to be an Essex County Council thing. It was meant to be about all of Essex. And we look at things like, I don't know, London Data Store, and it's really rich because it's got all sorts of different data from loads of different partners all feeding into the same place. And for the past couple of years, I've been working with the open data team and with the platform and the people in that area, and we've been wanting to expand out to work with more people, but obviously it's something that Essex County Council has sort of started with, and because of that, to try and populate the website, we've mostly gone for Essex County Council owned data because we have more say over what goes on there. But it's felt like we're not getting to where we want to because we have only been doing our own data. And we've been talking to Leanne, to Lucy, and to a couple of guys over at the Fire and Rescue Service. Will, I think, is on the call today, about various different projects that we can do to see how we can use fire service data and some of the skills that we've built up in ecda to be able to support one another and try different things. And it sort of felt like there was a bit of an open goal opportunity to try and use some of the data that Fire and Rescue Service already publish, but to translate it into something that is easily communicable, easily understandable, and something that the public would want to click on and look at rather than being buried in a website somewhere. So it felt like a good opportunity for us to kind of scratch each other's backs. We could offer some resource, we could get some data, we could publish something new, we could allow the public to see something new. So it felt like a real win-win-win opportunity, and I think it has been. So I won't rattle on, I'll let you two carry on with your presentation, but I think that's it from my perspective. We could help each other, so why wouldn't we?
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you very much. Yeah. The aim of the project was to design, develop, and publish an interactive Power BI dashboard that we would host on the open data. The dashboard would contain data about the incidents of the incidents that ECFRS had attended. The key objectives were to understand the data set, to design and develop a dashboard that reflected the structure of the data, to gather, review, and implement actions from feedback. We had, in the middle of the project, we had a feedback session with some of the colleagues from ECC, some of the colleagues from the Fire and Rescue Service. We gathered that feedback, I took it back, and we managed to modify the dashboard accordingly. We finally published the dashboard to the Open Data Platform. Happily enough, to the timeline that you agreed as well, which was like really incredible for me. We also agreed to produce an article for the Insight blog, which I think it was shared 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And we are glad to say that we think this was a massive success. And I'm going to show you the dashboard that is now on the platform, that is and it is available for everyone to see. I'm gonna quickly close my share screen and then start again, because I want to share my browser instead, so I can show everyone how you can actually access the dashboard. So if you give me just one more second, there you go. Now you should be able to see my browser. So in order to find the dashboard, you just need to go on the Open Data website, which is data.essex.gov.uk. You can either use the search bar, where you just write fire incidents, and you should find the dashboard over here, or you can just go to View Interactive Tools, and the dashboard should be right here. Now going a little bit down. We're waiting for it to load. My computer is a little slow because of the sharing functionality, but there it is. This is the introductory page of the dashboard. You have information about, like an overview information about all of the incidents that happened since 2018.
Yeah.
We've got primary fires data, accidental dwelling fires, secondary fires, a little bit about special services, a little bit about false alarms. But I'm recommending you, if you want to start looking at the dashboard, to go with the first 2 pages. One of them, which is going to help you navigate throughout the dashboard, and the other one is a data dictionary. That will give you all of the terms that you like, the definitions of the terms that you have in the dashboard. And if one of the terms doesn't make sense, you can quickly check the data dictionary, understand a little bit more about it as well. I'm going to show you how to navigate through the dashboard. I'm not going to go through all of the information in there, because this is for you to explore at your own pace. But I have introduced this navigation guidance based on our feedback session to ease the navigation and to explain a little bit of the functionalities of Power BI. For example, in this graphs tab over here, you can see how one of the graphs in the dashboard looks like. You can press on a particular point in time on the graph, and this will filter the additional data that is on the page. And it is a very, very useful tool, because you can filter it by like you've got a lot of options to filter the dashboard. There is also a drill point over here that you can use with several graphs where you can explore the data a little bit more. We have got a filters panel, which you will find on the left side of the dashboard. All of the filters are interactive, and they follow through the entire page. So if you select one filter on a particular page, it will be the same filter for the entire dashboard. I made it in this way so you don't have to select a particular filter for every single page as you navigate through the dashboard. We have a date function here, where you can quickly select the date as you go through, if you want to check a particular period. What I'm really happy about is that we also managed to include a map that works really well. It will take a little bit of time to load, but once it's loading, it's going to run very smooth. And we have 2 ways of filtering the actual map. You can go with the district. So for example, I would choose Castle Point over here. As you select the district, the map will show you all of the words that are in that particular district. But if you're interested in a particular word, you can also select a word. So for example, we'll go with boys word here, and it will show you all of the LSOAs that are in that particular word with the number of incidents and the code for that LSOA. if you find out that the code is not particularly useful, although most of the people will know where the location they are interested in is situated, let me know by sending an email to Open Data, and I can modify the map to actually show the name of the word instead of, the name of the LSOA instead of the code. However, I didn't find it necessarily useful to have the name here because most of the people will know what they are looking after. There is also the buttons over here, which I think they're quite intuitive what they do, so I won't go over them again. And we also have this little button over here, which if you click on it, it will open up some sort of a pop-up that will give you a little bit of definition of that of the page, which you can close by using this small arrow over here. And for some of them, we also have the data dictionary button that we can use over here. So I'll just press back, so you can see now that I managed to close that pop-up. And if we go forward a little bit, I'll just introduce you the overview page, and I'll play around with the filters. So just so you understand how nice and easy it is to navigate through the dashboard. So I don't know, let's say we are interested to see only the 2019 data for Chelmsford district. Come on. It is a little slow because of my sharing screen functionality, but it should run very smooth on the website. Let's just say Chelmer Village for Word. And you'll see as you progress through the actual filters, all of the graphs are changing with different numbers. And this should be instant. And let's say I'm just interested in a fire incident category, not a false alarm or a special service. So now we can see that in the period that I mentioned, in the year 2019, we had 14 incidents. All of them were fire as I filtered the data. Most of the incidents happened on a Wednesday. I don't know, or like we can see that most of the calls were around the afternoon, and here you can see exactly the number of incidents on the map, exactly where they happened, and you will see also that the filters carry over for each of the other pages. I won't go through all of them. I will let you discover the rest of the pages, but you will see that we've got a lot of useful graphs here that will help you analyze each incident as you please. We've got the accidental dwelling fires as well, which if we clear the filters will provide you with a little bigger, with a bigger perspective on how things looked in 2019 regarding the accidental dwelling fires. And I think I'll stop here so we don't run over time, but please have a look at the dashboard, go through each of the pages, let me know what you think, let me know if anything needs to be improved, and I will be more than happy to add your ideas to the dashboard. Now I will move back to the presentation. If you give me a little bit of time.
Thanks.
Yes, nice.
Yes, thanks. So I'll let Soren have a bit of a breather.
Yeah.
Just obviously showing you the dashboard there, which obviously that was one of our main deliverables. We have got it at hopefully in very near automate. We're just doing the final testing of the automation feed from our end. So it will come out of our SQL, email across to the team, and they'll be able to extract it down and put it into the dashboard, hopefully with no manual manipulation from any of us. So that will update on a regular basis going forward. So the data keeps it really current, so people, particularly the public, but also in special internal stakeholders as well, can use this dashboard on the outside and obviously use other things there as well. But obviously what we didn't necessarily set out to achieve, but we're going to, is the collaboration work that Soren and I have done. And we both agreed shortly after the dashboard was completed that we've developed a really great working relationship. We consider each other very knowledgeable peers. We can lean on each other for knowledge, advice, friendship as well. It's been great to getting to know Soren, understanding his skill set, and obviously with that was on those knowledgeable sharing. Like from my perspective, obviously, Soren is a huge asset to Essex County with his technical skill set and his ability to be very logical and obviously help me kind of what I put onto paper, design and then produce that. It was just great to see that come to fruition. Conversations we've had, we learned a lot about our own organisations, how our data is stored, how it's structured, how we use it, the software, obviously Power BI, and I can talk a bit more about how the skills, particularly the Power BI world, has helped us within Essex County Fire and Rescue Service. So a key example I can provide is the LSOA maps there that you saw. As a GIS expert, I consider myself being an expert, I was like, Soren, how do you guys build that? Because obviously we were trying to replicate it internally as well. And Soren kindly shared a lot of template and knowledge of how to do that, and obviously links that are also publicly available, but it really helped me focus on to deliver that in a much quicker time than if I'd done it myself. And as a result, I then managed to complete an internal risk model that we've developed as well, which is map based and can drill down, and I don't think without working with someone on this project that would have happened. So it's, and obviously I think listening to, and in the wider fire sector as well in particular, I can see that potentially other fire rescuers also aren't as advanced in that sort of map focus on Power BI as well. So we'll be looking to also share what we've learned as a result of working with Essex County, and Soren in particular on this one, to build on their knowledge as well, so we can keep going. I think obviously Soren also asked me about other elements of my skill set with GIS in particular. And obviously, I think when we were particularly in the feedback session as well, because we had one of our directors there as well, who's my boss's boss. Initially, it was like, well, what else are we going to do next? Opportunity, like what else can we put on Power BI and share? And it just created this huge hunger, appetite, more so than I've ever seen Essex Fire. And obviously, it's then led to, obviously, as Tom alluded to, other projects that we've been working with and internally as well. It's just, I'm not sure if anybody's read the blog, but please go ahead and have a read of what Soren I put together. But we do call ourselves a cross-organisational data-focused dream team now. And I did say there we used to have Thursday morning huddles together and basically take the mickey out of each other, but also do some really great progress work. And then on the Thursday afternoon, Soren and I used to work together quite closely to deliver what you guys have just seen on the dashboard. I think that was, I'm not sure if you wanted to talk about it from your perspective there as well, Soren, if you've caught your breath back.
To me, this project gave me the first-hand experience of planning a project from beginning to end. As some of you may know, I was promoted from junior to analyst, so I'm still on my becoming a full-time analyst, let's say expert, I'd say. So this was a very good first-hand experience for me to plan a project from beginning to end with the support of Leanne, Tom, and Lucy. As I understood the goals and the deliverables, I was able to visualize and plan in my head everything that was needed. And I have to say that I feel really lucky that both me and Leanne are data nerds, because it made the process fairly easy. We set up an initial template of how we think the dashboard should look like in PowerPoint, and then we managed to design the dashboard from it. I will now use the same process to create templates for my other clients as well. And if I understood correctly, the same process has been used for other projects across the open data team. So am I a trendsetter? I think it remains to be seen. As Leanne mentioned, we are now working with Essex Fire on another project, which is focusing on accidental fire dwellings. And it will support our prevention-focused work. This is where we will provide relevant fire and safety advice and equipment, such as standard and sensory smoke alarms to residents in their homes. I'm currently enrolled in the project. I think Leanne is going to join at the later phase of it, but I'm equally excited about this project as I was with the dashboard. Moving a little bit forward, we managed to gather some very good feedback for the dashboard. I have gathered some numbers from Google Analytics, and I can say that as of 13th of May, the dashboard had over 514 views with an average time of 3 minutes spent on the page. Since the publication of the tool, which was roughly 1 month, it has been our top visited page each day, which made my mind go wild. Making our COVID tool the third most visited tool on the website in this period, which always used to be the #1 given the circumstances that we're in, and preceded by our district profiles report, which I also recommend to give a look on the platform. We got around 12 emails regarding the dashboard, 8 from us, 4 from the fire service, and several messages from others via Teams. And we have gathered a lot of good feedback across the DNA team, as well as a nice comment on our Insight blog. I'm not sure, Leanne, if you've got any more feedback that you want to share from.
Yeah, so obviously, like I said, on the bottom, there was our internal feed. I think it's now being subsided as of this week, but it was our #1 most viewed internal news article with 13 likes, and the one that was second to it only had like a few number of likes, so it was really being received well within internally. Speaking with some of our information governance team, who was a lot of our inspiration, Essex Fire, sorry, information governance team, who a lot of our inspiration for this as well. Instead of answering statutory requests, they've been pushing people towards the dashboard. Hopefully that's increased the numbers there. So, and I know, hearing from our prevention team, I know Will is also on the call, so I know that they've been using it whilst out in the communities as well, and they'll be really using that data going forward to keep driving conversations with our public, which is what we kind of wanted it for. And I'm looking forward to also catching up, obviously, with some more with our external facing prevention focused teams who go to big partnership meetings and using this dashboard as an exemplar. So I'm really looking forward to that. You just want to go on to the next slide, Soren, as well for me. I've also gathered some quotes from our Deputy Chief Fire Officer, Rick Hilton. And as you obviously think kind of leads nicely to obviously what Stephen was talking about earlier about, making leaders really, intelligent customers. Rick's very intelligent, but, really driving that data appetite and keep moving forward, making data key to our decision making. And I really liked Rick's quote here, where we can drive a conversation and create a mindset of curiosity and then lead to better intelligent questions, innovation, and ultimately improvement of outcomes for the people of Essex that we all serve. So it was great to hear that, and I know our chief as well, they worked quite closely together, I think, to produce that quote as well. Obviously, the second quote there is from Tracy King, who I mentioned earlier. She's the Assistant Director and the Performance Improvement. And obviously, she said it's like she was on our feedback session saying how much she just wanted to keep collaborating and partnership working has obviously delivered this excellent results. What obviously I couldn't unfortunately include on the slide, because he's saying that prior to this instant level dashboard, like as I mentioned earlier, our data was served on our transparency page in a format that was not accessible. Well, it was accessible, but obviously you'd have to sort of like skill to stitch it all together. And then but obviously this product really gives them that at the fingertips, interactive, and ability to drill through. And obviously the hit numbers speak for themselves, as she says, and she's really looking forward to seeing how it can inform our community work. And obviously I couldn't fit another quote on the page. It was just great to receive all this feedback. James Palmer, who's the head of prevention protection, who Will works for on the call, he's also quoted obviously as I mentioned, the usefulness of the dashboard for his teams, particularly the prevention, who've been using it to inform messages, and we've been using it in internal as well to quote and talk about what activity was going on after incidents as well. Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, our DNA management team has also been impressed with our work. Nikki, our head of service, specifying that, quote, "We have a role to play building capability across the wider data ecosystem," and this is a great example of this. So I think this kind of summarizes all of the success that we had with this product and why we are so happy to be able to present it to you today. And I don't know, just in general, the fact that we're able to share a lot of information from the county to the public, and also not only to the public, but also to the teams across the Essex County Council and across the fire service, because I think this is the only way we can go towards our, I would call data-driven dream. So yeah, it was a very good project for me to work on, and I was very passionate about it. And I'm just looking forward to work with more teams across the county, not only the fire service.
obviously echoing there, obviously Soren's points, where I'm looking forward to continue hopefully working on the accident with dwelling fire project, acronym heavy we are at the fire service, and to keep seeing what else is available to open up more further opportunities for us to be working together, not with just us, but other partners as well. It's great to share analytical knowledge, challenge, skill sets, and just really gather that and put it into one place where we can allow our residents to understand how we've made decisions we've made and how we're using our resources and funding. It just makes us really accountable, and it provides that transparency. Obviously, from my point, I'm from Essex Fire on behalf, thank you very much for Soren, obviously Tom, Ed, and obviously to my team as well, Lucy, Jordan, and Tim on the call as well, for really coming together to really do this. It takes a team, and luckily we keep going as one, and as Soren said, we delivered it on time. Just about. And it's just really, it's been really exciting to work on the project. It kept it much, it made our Thursday afternoons particularly cheerful, particularly in the midst of a lockdown during a pandemic. So thank you, Soren, from me as well.
Thank you as well. And thank you everyone for listening.
And we open the floor for any questions everyone has or feedback.
Thank you so much, Leanne and Soren. You're getting so much love on the chat. So I just wanted to quickly echo that before I open it up for questions. But it's been so nice to hear from you both. And you really have brought to life everything that we've spoken about today. So, you know, to hear about how you've been working together, you know, how we, as we've said, we all have different expertise. You know, it's impossible to have them all in our one team, and actually our strength lies together. And I know that's a really cheesy quote, but actually, you know, you've really brought that to life today, that, you know, we can actually help each other with those shared ambitions that we have. And I think it's so interesting, you know, when we talk to everyone as part of the data mapping exercise, everyone was saying, you know, we love data, we talk about it all the time, don't we? It's how do we get everyone else to see the value in it and drive it? And this is absolutely a brilliant example of how we do that. So I'm sure there are questions. I'm sure you've inspired lots of people in the audience today. So yeah, now's a bit of time for everyone to make a comment or ask a question. I can see that David's got his hand up. So over to you first, David.
Thank you. I mean, I'm just going to start off by saying I found that a really uplifting session. I think there were two things about it. First of all, the two of you, your enthusiasm for what you're doing just poured over. And I think as analysts, I think that's really great when we can present that type of image of data people. Yes, we may have our inner geek, but actually we're really enthusiastic about the stories we can tell with data. And I just think it's a really, really great use of Power BI in the way that it's come over. So all credit to you for what I think is a really good. I know it's more than this, but it's a great case study of what you can do with data without getting too elaborate in terms of there's no great underlying modelling, but what you've done is presented data in a way that clients find useful and will impact on the way they make decisions. So I think that's really, really good. I had a couple of questions. I mean, one is sort of on the project thing. Were there any challenges you faced that you actually couldn't overcome, that there was stuff you wanted to do that you just had to bury? And the second one is from the capability side, Leanne, so it's directed very much at you, is what difference do you think having worked with this project with Soren and ECC will make to you as an analyst and Essex Fire and Rescue Service through what you can do as a consequence? Sorry, that's two questions. But
we'll start with question number one, challenges. I think, like I say, we've still got the slight automation feed that we need to fix. So we hopefully that will be fixed very soon. Lucy's on the call, I can see her nodding. So yeah, her thumbs up. So a little bit, very close. It's just the problem with that was obviously it's quite a lot of data, and we're just ping a lot across, and the file exchange, the email exchange server can't handle the meg size. We're just going to figure another way to get around that, and that's a great workaround. That will hopefully happen. Other challenges, Soren, come in if you think of one.
This is the thing, right? Like, you would expect a project of like such importance, and a project this big would have a lot of challenges, but this is the beauty of collaboration. Me and Leanne, we always met. So after our Thursday huddles, we always met afterwards to discuss how we plan things ahead. And to be fair, apart from the automation thing, we didn't have many problems because we agreed on a set of actions that we need to do every week, and we literally just met the week after and be like, this is what I've done, this is what I've done, and it's been a great success, really. I think probably the biggest thing that I struggled with at the beginning was to actually understand the data and understand why we have several gaps in there. But after we've met with Lucy and Leanne, that knowledge, like I acquired that knowledge, and it was fine in the end.
Yeah, I think also with the data angle bit there, you just remind me, sorry, as well, our actual transparent has other columns attached to it, and it's not complex like column. It's got it has all the appliances that also attended the instance, and it's quite a long and we thought that just to keep it really simple, keep the dashboard to what the purpose was, just to show like overviews and the categories and the instance, that it was always we just really keep it really simple. So, but we were very, very clear on the decision we'd made, that decision to keep that design simple and user friendly. Rather, and then obviously, I guess the thing is then we can do a lot more as well with the dashboard, the data we also have available publicly, but a lot more of the data that we can probably bring in at a later point, and then how are we going to potentially even evolve that to the next stage. And I guess it's something we'll have to come back and look at, and maybe with the feedback we might capture as well, is to really make those decisions again. Not a challenge, it's just something we just need to work more again to come across that. I guess should we go on to the second question that so the challenges, capability, sorry. For me as an analyst, as I kind of mentioned during the briefing there, is Soren, and obviously working with the team as well, Essex County team, is really developed my capability, particularly in the software side, which was fantastic, because obviously, like I said, it's helped us internally to really, particularly the map side. You see Jordan, who's probably on the call, he's our technical analyst, little heads up, yeah, he's been working, obviously been like feeding knowledge back to him, and obviously Tim and Luce on the call as well as part of our wider team to build, to then embed what we've learned from working collaboratively into our own internal dashboards, and making sure that when we're feeding it back to our internal customers, they understand the insights we've given on the visuals as well. Yeah, I don't know whether anybody from my team has got any seen how the capabilities built because of this, Luce.
Yeah, so I think as well, it's definitely the collaboration. So the fire service actually has a statutory obligation to collaborate with our partners to do stuff differently. And I think it's our chief has a phrase of doing the basics beautifully. And that really, this is really an exemplar example of it. It's not saying that, you know, the work at all is basic. It's not, but actually we've not done an overcomplicated dashboard. We've got the right people together to deliver an outcome who are both passionate about it. And I think it's just, in terms of the capabilities, it's just showcased that to the organisation, that when we look at collaboration, it doesn't have to be grand projects that are going to save hundreds of millions of pounds to all of the different partners. Sometimes it can just be doing something really simple that actually I think we're very fortunate as a fire service that our data is interesting. You know, it's fires, people are interested in it, it's fire engines, and people will actually go to look at their local area. Like when the police launched their maps about, you know, crime in the area, people are interested, and so it's interesting data. And I think in terms of capability, it's improved across the organisation, the appetite for data. And as we have another project going on within the team at the moment that Jordan's leading on, but we're all working towards, which is rolling out more dashboards across the organisation, it's really just increased people's appetite for more data. So it's lit a fuse, and it's going really well at the moment.
It definitely also kept our comms team quite happy that we're also helping them build the narrative that it's not just fires. So they were really looking forward to using this tool, and obviously working with other external stakeholders. And something I'd like to also say is this dashboard was released obviously during PERDA. For us, obviously, we were going to go for PMCC elections, so we had to be really cautious of that. And they were really careful to how they can also use the dashboard going forward. And as a service, we can too, to provide that narrative. And then obviously, like I say, the French team in particular, when they're out in the communities, can use that as a capability to talk about other stuff that's going on that's also interesting. And obviously then the services we can provide that associates with those as well. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, David.
That was brilliant, actually. It was really helpful. I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking, the more you talk about how I think Lucy's point about how you show people what you can do with data and they get an increased appetite. I think that's a sort of underpinning what we want to do with increasing the good stories we can tell about the use of data. So just to say, fantastic, thank you.
Thanks, David. Tom?
Yeah, I think there's a question for Tom.
Yeah, there weren't really questions as such. It's just more a couple of points I wanted to add on to some of the stuff that's already been said. So David asked around some of the challenges that you'd experienced throughout it. And I think I've done a lot of different partnership projects over the past 2 or 3 years, and something that made this one very successful was that we used data that was safe and secure. It was something that was already published, just maybe not in the most user-friendly way, and we've turned it into something that works for people. But the challenges that we often have in like working in data across organizational boundaries are around information governance, around ethics, and I don't think we had to deal with any of those. So it doesn't mean challenges aren't there for other projects, but it does mean you can choose the right way to start engaging with new people and trying to work in a different way. And I think had we gone in all guns blazing to try and do a big, large-scale data sharing project where we needed loads of information governance and go to an ethics board and all that sort of stuff, it would have been a much harder sell to people who maybe aren't so au fait with working with data. And I think that what we've seen subsequently from doing this piece of work is we were working with Jim and Will, who I think Will's on the call already, about scoping out a piece of work. But when people start to see the quality and like just the simplicity and like how helpful the data can be, it really does whet the appetite. And a lot of people, I think, at Fire and Rescue have been a lot more keen to progress the projects that we've been talking about. And I think that it's something that we can explore with a lot of other partners as well. Like from another project's perspective, we really struggled with our homelessness project to do anything that was sharing person level like data, because there was so many hoops to jump through. And going back to what David spoke about at the start of this session about like the capability around access to data, around all sorts of things, it was a really difficult project to do, but we've just delivered something because we used open data to be able to do it. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to use what we have available to us publicly, what we have available to us at a kind of an LSOA or maybe slightly lower level, in a really different creative way that helps to provide a lot of insight that we haven't had in the past. And I think, like Lucy, you just said how fires are interesting and it makes people interested in the data, and it's definitely true. But I think from a data analyst perspective, there's a lot of data that we all have in each other's organizations that we just all like playing with data mostly. And actually, a lot of stuff is still really interesting. And I go to different open data conferences and stuff, and I hear people from Leeds, say, talking about like the bin routes data. And I think, oh, that'd be wicked. I'd love to get hold of all the bin routes data and see what we could do with it. And I think like it's not, I don't think we picked you guys as the fire service to work with because fires are interesting. It's because there's an opportunity to do something collaborative. And I think for anyone in the audience who has got a kind of a data need that we might be able to help with, I'd be really, really keen to hear from people about how we can support, because we don't need to talk about going crazy and doing really complicated stuff, sharing like crazy amounts of data. There's a lot of simple stuff that can be done first to get us on the road to heading down that direction. But one thing I definitely have, I suppose, witnessed is seeing people in the fire service seemingly buy into data a lot more from having something that they can use. And if that's something that other organizations are struggling with and want some of their senior decision makers to buy into it a bit more, then let's see how we can support them and see how that can kind of trick the people who are holding the purse strings or whatever into giving us more resources in the different organizations or whatever it needs to be. But yeah, it's been a really fun project to be involved in. I think it's really exciting, and it's a nice precedent for stuff we could do in the future for people too. Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
Hear, hear, Tom. Any more questions from anyone? Can't see any hands up. If I'm missing anyone, then feel free to just speak. No? Okay. I'll wrap up then, and we'll give you 15 minutes back. That's our gift to you today. It's been such a good session, and it's been so nice to see everyone and speak to everyone today. I think we've thrown a lot at you in terms of you know, playing back some of the things we heard from our conversations at the end of last year. talking a little bit about where we're going to go on capability. I think Stephen gave us some material there that we probably all need a bit of time to reflect on in terms of, where are we as analysts now, and where might we like to be in the future, and then how might some of those capability things that we've got in place or in play support us to get to where we want to be. I think if if that's something that you want to have further discussion about, or you need a bit of time to reflect on, then we've said it a million times today, but please don't hesitate to get in touch. And I'm absolutely sure that Leanne and Soren have inspired you all to want to do something together. That's whether that's with others on the call or people that aren't present today. Certainly we have this growing network, which is fantastic, and are able to connect people. So if you're inspired, you want to get on board and you don't even know what you want to do, you just feel like you want to do something, then I think that's part of the fun, trying to throw around some ideas and see what is possible. So again, get in touch. If you don't know where we are already, then the contact details are in the chat. But once again, thank you so much to everyone who's given their time to speak today, and everyone that's attended. And we'll share all the presentations in the next few days. And until we'll see you again, everyone take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.